子祥访谈录 Real People, Real Story.
When we do a transition like that,
Right.
It's not just the kids. The parents feel it.
The parents feel it.
The parents will feel the transition too. And sometimes they don't want to acknowledge what the child is feeling because then they would have to acknowledge what they're feeling.
And in terms of coming to a different country and environment, you said that, there's grief, there is a disappointment, there's a lot of things to say goodbye to, but especially for people from China, when they come here as a kid, they also face a very different scenario because they don't necessarily speak English that
Right.
well. I mean, facing a totally different environment plus the language barriers, which is going to multiply the difficulty, several times. I know some family. Initially, they come here. Their daughter or son was crying every day. They don't want to go out because they feared outside world. Everything was so unfamiliar with. And it's just their family was having a hard time to helping their kids to cope with the transition. And their kids was complaining they want to go back to China every day. They're crying. And so how would you suggest them to cope with that process then?
Well, I think first it's normal.
It's normal.
It's normal because it's a really big change. And when we do transition, when we do a change is an event. You take the trip, that's a
Right.
change.
Right.
But then there's an internal process we call transition, where your insides have to match. You go through, the saying goodbye, but the grief and moving on. So when we do a transition like that,
Right.
It's not just the kids. The parents feel it.
The parents feel it.
The parents will feel the transition too. And sometimes they don't want to acknowledge what the child is feeling because then they would have to acknowledge what they're feeling. It's like it's so painful to see it in your children because you're feeling it yourself. So I think the parents also need to know how to do transition. How do they say goodbye well? But that there is this normal time where you've left one place, you're not fully in the other, and you're kind of in between. And in a way, COVID was that way for us. We never said goodbye to our old lives, and all of a sudden we're stuck in the middle of some place. We don't know where we're going. But I think parents should also, I tell people, it's important to comfort before you encourage. A lot of times parents try to help the child feel better by saying, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to go to the store. Or they get mad because, well, whatever, and they shame the child. But the child is feeling a legitimate feeling. They've lost their world. They're human beings. They will feel it. Life will go on eventually, but in this interim time,
Right.
Maybe helping them connect to their parents or their
Right.
grandparents or the kids back home. Things that they can do so that they know that world isn't lost forever. Now, it's important to encourage a child like, okay, we are going to go to school, we're going to learn, all these things are going to happen. But right now, if they're feeling sad tonight, the first thing is to say, it's okay to miss China.
To recognize that
Right.
there is a true feeling there.
There's a true feeling
Instead
there.
of denying that feeling.
Right. And to recognize it takes some time and so forth. When we left Liberia, I raised my children in Liberia. And we had that day at the airport where my daughter left her best friend on the other side of the airport. And she was crying, and I felt like I was ruining her life. She got on the airplane. She didn't want to put the seatbelt on. She said, if I didn't put it on, maybe I didn't have to leave. Well, I understood how she was feeling, but I also told her, I said, well, you can keep crying, but you have to put your seatbelt on. So she cried. Every night in Europe, she cried. I thought, oh man, I think I've ruined her life. Eventually, we got to the stage. She quit crying. And I thought, okay, I think she's okay. But maybe a year later, she said, Mom, I really miss Liberia. So I wanted to say to her, oh, but you're doing so well. Just think about, all these friends you have and all that. But I thought, no, I want to comfort her first. So I said, well, how do you feel about being here? She said, well, I really miss it there, but I really like it here. And I thought, that's what we call paradox, where you can have two things that are opposite.
Right.
And both can be true at the same time.
Right.
It's possible that she misses Liberia and she likes it here. And one of the things parents need to understand, or we have to all understand, is living an internationally mobile life is very paradoxical. We have many benefits and we have many challenges.
Right.
And the benefits don't eliminate the challenges. The challenges don't mean I don't have the benefits.
Right.
And so how do we live with that both and tension, which I think is part of being successful at it.
Coming back to America when you were 13 years old, as you landed in America, you went to a local school in Chicago, right?
Right.
So at the time, that area in Chicago was not super diverse.
No, it was pre-integration.
So everybody looks like traditional white American kids, and based on your appearance, you fit right in.
I did.
And you spoke perfect Americanized English, and no one could recognize where you're from or something. You know, you speak perfectly fine, just like one of us. But how did you feel inside? Do you feel like you were one of them? Do you feel a sense of belonging? Do you feel like you want to tell your stories to people?